Hello, I'm Paul Davies and I lead the writing team of Make It Real English for Higher Education in Latin America. This is one of several methodology modules on the Mir Online platform for teachers using the Make It Real books. They include reading comprehension, listening comprehension, speaking, writing, focus on language, testing, and this module, Classroom English. We'll focus here on Classroom English in communicative language teaching in general, and on Classroom English in Make It Real teaching contexts, English courses in higher education in Latin America. English language teaching contexts in Latin American higher education vary considerably, but they have a lot in common. The student's native language is Spanish or Portuguese. The students have an increasing need or probable need of English for study, professional work, and continuous professional development, and also for proficiency tests like TOEFL and IELTS. What they need is communicative competence, not just grammatical and lexical knowledge. And many students, if not most, enter higher education with a low level in English or almost no English after 5, 6 or more years of English classes at school. In Latin American higher education then, Classroom English is both vital to promote communicative competence and often difficult to establish because most students don't have it much at school and are not used to it. That makes Classroom English both a challenge and an opportunity.
Classroom English in English courses in Latin American higher education. Problem: students not used to Classroom English at school may be reluctant or resistant. Some students may flood classes with their native language, innocently or intentionally. The teacher may not have the skills and persistence needed to establish English as the main classroom language in these circumstances. Other teachers may use the student's native language a lot, undermining the principle of Classroom English in the institution. Opportunity. English as the main classroom language can be one of the things that distinguishes the course from school English courses, which failed most students. Establishing and using English as the main classroom language can be a very satisfying experience for the students and the teacher. Classroom English can contribute enormously to the development of the student's communicative competence. The teacher can discuss the above points with the students towards the beginning of the course, in the student's native language in beginners courses, and begin to change their attitudes. It helps enormously if all teachers in an institution insist on English as the main classroom language. For that, they all need the necessary skills and persistence to establish English as the main classroom language. When English is the main classroom language, the atmosphere and the results are usually noticeably better. You can talk about this with your students towards the end of a course and celebrate their and your success with them.
Using English for most communication in the classroom has been a basic principle of good English teaching for well over a century. When communicative language teaching was coming into use, in 1981 to be precise, Jane Willis, later one of the creators of task-based learning, published a book called Teaching English Through English. She wrote, "To teach students how to communicate in English, teachers should aim not only to teach English in English, but to exploit the genuine communicative situations that arise in the classroom for meaningful language practice." Note the phrase, the genuine communicative situations that arise in the classroom. In fact, classroom lessons consist of one genuine communicative situation after another. And I'm not talking about organized communicative tasks.
Routine communicative situations. Greetings at the beginning of each class. Checking attendance. Checking classroom conditions. Managing different activities. Asking and answering questions. Making and responding to requests. Leaving homework, farewells at the end of each class. Incidental communicative situations. A student says or does something the teacher can comment on or ask other students to comment on. Something goes wrong in the classroom and needs to be set right. Something has happened that calls for comment or discussion. Genuine communicative situations in the classroom include routine situations and occasional or incidental ones. You must actively teach students the language for the routine situations and exploit known language, any language students have met before, for the incidental situations.
Classroom English should be very simple, repetitive, and supported by facial expressions, body language and gestures in beginners' courses, and increasingly complex and varied as the course level rises. You should see this as a sub-syllabus of functional language to be taught and consolidated progressively through the course. For example, the language for greetings in a beginner's course should include good morning, afternoon, evening. How are you today? Fine, thank you. And you? A bit tired, but okay. What about you, Sandra? I'm happy. Good. Why? Then there's the language for each of the other situations, often including some of the same language in all the different situations.
Okay, open your books on page number 12, please. Thank you. Now, look at the image. Now, read the text we have there, please. Now, work in pairs, please.
Speaking activities.
Okay, stop, close your books, and look at me. Now, do you understand the situation and the activity?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so continue working in pairs, please. Now, stop. Any problems?
No.
No? Okay, continue, please. Now, please stop and change partners, please.
Focusing on language.
Okay, thank you. Look at these examples, please. Now, which nouns have an a and which nouns have an an? Can you discuss this question in pairs, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, listen to me say these phrases and repeat them after me, please. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Here are examples of language for the management of different classroom activities, one of the most essential and repetitive components of classroom communication. The examples are for beginner level. More complex and varied language could be used in higher levels, especially from intermediate level on. Note that the approach for focusing on language here is inductive, an approach strongly supported by research and recommended by most experts in ELT methodology today. It's the general approach proposed in Make It Real.
Classroom English doesn't usually materialize by magic. The syllabus of classroom English we're talking about has to be taught and consolidated bit by bit. You have your own ways of doing this, I'm sure, but we'll look at some common ways here, especially for the context of English for higher education in Latin America. As I've already said, most students in Latin America still enter higher education with a low level of English, sometimes almost none, and that's after 5, 6 or more years of English classes at school, which have often given them a negative attitude towards English and accustomed them to the use of their native language in the classroom, much more than English. Your first challenge with beginners and lower levels then is to get students to accept and use English as the main classroom language. That can be very difficult if all the teachers in your institution or language centre don't do the same. So point 1, if not already the case where you work, establish English as the main classroom language for all teachers and all students in your institution or language centre. With or without English as the main classroom language for all teachers, you have to establish it in your own classroom, teach it to your own students. Let's look at some of that process in a Latin American institution of higher education.
Disculpe, ¿puedo pasar?
Sorry. Listen. Sorry, I'm late. Can I come in? What's that in Spanish? Sorry, I'm late. Can I come in? Yes?
Perdón por llegar tarde. ¿Puedo pasar?
That's right. Now, listen everyone. Sorry, I'm late. Repeat. Sorry, I'm late.
Sorry, I'm late.
Yes, very good. Now, sorry, I'm late. Can I come in?
Sorry, I'm late. Can I come in?
Good. Again, please.
Sorry, I'm late. Can I come in?
Excellent. So, Luis,
Sorry, I'm late. Can I come in?
Yes, come in and sit down.
You can plan to teach bits of classroom English along with situations and activities that you're going to organize. You can also take advantage of situations as they arise, as in the case we've just seen. You need to establish the meaning of the new bit of English and its pronunciation. Traditional modeling and repetition can be useful here. Then insist on the use of that bit of English whenever needed afterwards. Elicit it from other students if the student who needs it can't remember it.
Okay, let's talk about some classroom instructions. Stand up, please. Okay. Derek, sit down. Now, look at the door. Alicia, please, close the door. Okay, now, in pairs, ask and answer questions about me. Now, change partners and continue talking. Okay, stop and sit down, please. Okay, who's the teacher now? Anna, please, come on. Stand up.
You need to consolidate the bits of classroom English after you first teach them. This is done simply by using them and getting students to use them whenever they're needed. However, especially with beginners, it can help if you have some practice sessions specifically reviewing classroom English. The technique used here comes from an approach called total physical response, developed in the 1960s, but still sometimes useful today.
Okay, work together, please.
Together? No entiendo.
In English, Mari, please.
No understand together.
Together. Together, okay?
Yes, juntos.
Now, how do you say no entiendo in English, Mari?
I not understand.
Almost. Anyone?
I don't understand.
Okay, Mari?
Yes, I don't understand together. No, now I understand together.
Excellent. Now, let's continue with the class, please, okay?
What we just saw shows something we all know. A little of the student's native language, Spanish in this case, can sometimes be the best way to solve a problem. And it showed that a little of the student's language can even help establish English as the main classroom language. We also saw how the teacher gave the first student the opportunity to self-correct, and when that failed, elicited the bit of English needed from students rather than just giving it herself. It's important to get students to do as much as possible for themselves and not passively wait for you to do things for them. Only autonomous learners ever become proficient speakers of a foreign language.
You've seen a number of ways of establishing English as the main classroom language, but there are many more, too many to cover here. Every successful communicative English teacher has her or his techniques and tricks. Here are some of the most essential principles and techniques, some of them already mentioned or illustrated. If not already established, try to get all the teachers in your institution to insist on English as the main classroom language. In beginner and lower level courses, and higher level ones too if necessary, treat classroom English as a sub-syllabus of language to be taught and consolidated. Teach the necessary new classroom English whenever you do a new type of activity or a new type of situation arises. Use whatever techniques seem to work best for you, which may occasionally include a bit of students' native language, choral and individual repetition, and total physical response. However, involve students as much as possible, trying to elicit language and corrections from them rather than always giving them yourself. Show that you're pleased when students use classroom English well, and even when weaker students use it just adequately. Now, never forget that there's no real communicative English teaching without English as the main classroom language.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
You too, Laura. Are you planning anything interesting?
No, just the usual. See you on Monday.
See you.
Well, I hope this module has been useful and interesting for you. Goodbye from myself and the Make It Real writing team, and we hope to see you again in another Make It Real methodology module.